For some analysis, let's bring in Yan Liang. She's a chair professor of economics at Willamette University in Portland, Oregon. I watched you on the Heat earlier today, and one of your panelists said 5% would be regarded as a miracle in most countries. We're seeing so many countries still struggling economically post-pandemic. He's got a point, doesn't he?
Of course. Good to talk to you, Mike. I think this is right. China's growth, even though it has slowed down from the past decade, over 10% growth rate, but 5% for a large economy like China, right, 128 trillion yuan worth of GDP, it is still a remarkable high growth in terms of the volume. China is still expected to contribute to 21% of the global GDP growth in the next 5 years. And that's more than the G7 countries' contribution combined. So yes, it is still a relatively fast-growing economy with some structural improvements and industrial upgrading.
What an economic engine. Lots of numbers to digest in that report about various sectors, including industrial output and retail sales. Is there one specific sector that you're looking at that's really kind of driving this?
Right. So industrial output growth in the first 3 quarters reached 5.8%. And especially when you look at the high-tech manufacturing and also high-tech investment, they all increased by, over 10%. So this is really, I think China is, walking the talks about developing these high-quality productive forces and trying to achieve those high-quality development. But I think, the real estate sector remains to be a drag. When you look at the investments, that sector has gone down by 10%. And also, in terms of the housing prices and housing sales, those continue to decline. So I think, China is making this pivot away from real estate investment-driven growth to more, high-quality growth, and also, trying to boost domestic demand in terms of investment and consumption. So I think, we need to understand the current relatively slower growth, again, compared to the really more than, 10% of growth in the past. I think it's just clear that, this is a deliberate sort of choice. This is a change from the past growth model.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You just brought up, I think if there's a blinking caution light, it would be about the potential headwinds dealing with the real estate sector. The numbers have not been trending in the right direction. What's your concern there? What are your thoughts on that?
Right. So the main concern, of course, is that this has been a long-term problem, and now I think by 2020, it has been realized that a lot of investments in the real estate sector was not really productive, and therefore there is a slew of policies that try to address the problem. Right now, I think we're still in the phase of readjustment, and we all know real estate adjustment is going to be long-term and costly. When you look at what happened in China, what happened in the United States or Japan, basically it's very difficult to do that. And I would say that, given the current situation, there are still 2 major issues. One is the unfinished housing units that needs to be finished, and the second is the inventory that is worth 7 trillion yuan. That needs to be also get rid of before the new demands and then new constructions can be put on a more sustainable basis. So I think a lot of policies are in support to stabilize the housing market, because housing market is still important, and when the housing market is in the decline, it creates a lot of collateral damage. So we do need to try to stabilize the housing market, but it still avoid going back to relying on too much real estate investment to drive the economic growth.
Yeah, you were talking about policies. I was in China in September when the government announced these measures to attract more foreign investment, kind of eliminating restrictions on the manufacturing sector, also allowing foreign investors to come in and actually set up hospitals in major cities like Beijing and Shanghai. These are kind of novel steps. What do you make of these policy shifts?
Right. So I think it's clear that China embraces globalization. It continues to promote this high quality world engagement. So welcoming foreign investors coming to China is one of the policies, one of the strategies. And at this point, I don't think China is looking for sort of more capital. But really what happens is that when you introduce foreign investments, you create more healthy competition. It also helps to bring more technological know-how and promote more sort of technological cooperation and spillovers. So I think it's clear that China wants to continue to welcome foreign investors. Like you mentioned, no restrictions in the manufacturing sector. And for the service sector, it's going to be a gradual open process. Healthcare is one of them, financial sector, and so on and so forth. So it's clear that is the direction that China is going forward.
Open for business sign out there for all to watch and see and to actually come if they'd like to. Yan Liang, Chair Professor of Economics at Willamette University, thank you so much for your time.
Good to talk to you, Mike.
Great to see you.